What's up, everyone? It's your friendly neighborhood cinema junkie here once again, and this video is kind of posing a question to you all, especially in the horror community. Um, because who would know better than anyone in the horror community, correct? I have a cousin, a dear, dear sweet cousin, Alicia. She is everyone's sweetheart. Um, she is mortified of horror movies. Mortified. I didn't realize how much. Because I have a lot of cousins who tell me, I don't like horror. It's scary. But not to this extent. I didn't really realize it. I mean, I knew she was always like, no way, no way. I would never watch a horror movie. No, I don't like horror movies. No. And I kind of like, I just rolled with that. But just recently in a little text deal, she said that she watched Ghost Whisperer, and that was way too much for her. And I was like, whoa, whoa, wow. So it got me to thinking, if I were to introduce someone who was like totally non-horror, completely non-horror, simply because they were too scared of it, what movies would I use? What movies would I use to introduce them, to wean them in slowly? um, I also hear from Frediosar TW. She said that she just started watching some like Saw and Saw 2, and it gave her a nightmare. And that's because she doesn't really watch horror movies. So maybe that was like a little too much to start with. So I thought about it and I grabbed a few selections here. You guys tell me what you think of it, or give me some of your own suggestions. Starting with the one that made me a horror fan, Night of the Living Dead. Okay? Subtle, black and white. Yes, it's about zombies, but the gore factor is almost nil. And, it has some suspense in it, a lot of chasing, a lot of, things like that, but nothing too over the top for your average moviegoer. Definitely nothing over the top for die-hard horror fans. We appreciate this movie. It doesn't scare us, but we love it. So I figured Night of the Living Dead was one that might kind of draw someone in slowly. Um, Gore seems to be a big factor when it comes to horror, and people are just like, oh, too much blood, too much guts. So then I started thinking, well, maybe something just a little more suspenseful rather than gory, something more on the scare side than the red works. So the others came to mind. Good ghost story, solid ghost story. I thought it was cool. I liked it. I actually really enjoy this movie. But when it comes to, like I said, the die-hard horror fans might watch this and be like, yeah, that was interesting. But someone who's not into horror whatsoever might find this pretty damn creepy. But nothing too traumatic, nothing too over the top. Speaking of ghost stories, I also considered this title, The Sixth Sense. I mean, I think it shows a little more than the others did. It had a little more like when the people are hanging, he sees the people hanging there in the school. Um, the burned lady, the abused woman, those things. Those are jump scares. Those are like, oh man, even when I saw it in the theater, there were a couple of times I kind of like, whoa, kind of got to me. So it might have a little more impact for someone who's not into horror. So I figured this might be one that would be subtle but effective. Also, Stir of Echoes. Um, no gore factor wasn't even there. It was just a good, suspenseful ghost story and a little mystery thrown in there as well. So I don't know if I would even call it a horror movie, more like a suspense thriller, but a really good ghost story. Now, ghost stories that pack a little more meat to them, The Fog. Again, subtle but ultra creepy and very cool, and way better than the remake. this is one I might suggest to her if she were to say, okay, I'll give horror a try, but nothing too over the top. It would be this one or the others, maybe The Sixth Sense. I don't know, Sixth Sense may be pushing it. Sixth Sense does have its elements where I think it might be a little bit too much for her. Definitely after Night of the Living Dead, the others, after it kind of sinks into the psyche, I would throw out Darkness Falls. Darkness Falls packs a little more punch. You know what I mean? You remember this one? It packs a little more of an impact. Still super creepy, super solid. Love this movie. Good for beginners and definitely worth a watch. Something that you can sit through as a horror fan and let your sister, cousin, brother, whatever, whoever's not into horror, your mom, your grandma, sit there with you and watch it and kind of like, oh, and watch it through the frame. Oh, no, whoa. And you can enjoy it as well instead of being like bored to death and be like, oh, God, I can't believe this. Will you be quiet? It's not that scary. You know what I mean? So, yeah, this is definitely one that would make the list. So then after a while, wow, I'm almost knocking this stuff over. After a while, I started to think, it's kind of like, you know, horror can be looked at as kind of like a pool or a pond of water, and you test it with your toe a little bit, then you put your foot in, then you put the rest of your leg in, then maybe your other foot, you know, splash a little on you, ease in. It's not for everybody. So with that in mind, I picked this one as a starter for people who have never watched horror and are scared to death of it. Laid to rest. Because at this point I started thinking, kick them in the ass, throw them in the fucking water, and let them get their goddamn ears wet. Shit. If they could watch this and survive it, they could watch any of that other stuff. Come on. So what are your suggestions for first-time horror fans? Or first-time horror goers, I should say, not fans. They're not fans of horror. They hate horror. Hate it. And they're like, no, too scary. Give me my sci-fi and my Dark Crystal Muppets. Leave a comment below. Tell me what some of your selections would be for first-time horror goers. I could really use some suggestions because I think she's going to give it a shot. I think my cousin Alicia is going to give it a shot. She's going to try maybe one. But the deal is that there has to be somebody guarding the place at night while she hides under the covers and wears socks so the witch doesn't scratch her feet. So yeah, sorry for the weird sounding voice. I sound really rough, and I thought if I wore the hat, people would mistake me for Danny. I'm sorry, man. This was a gift from Danny, DJ Boy 3275. Check out his channel. I'll leave the link below just because I busted on him. That wasn't right. But thanks, Danny, for the hat. Look, I'm finally wearing it. It's very, very cool. Thank you. So everyone, thanks for watching. Please send your suggestions, and I'll be talking to you real soon. Thanks.